Hello, Algebra 2. Page 94 of your textbook makes a clean break from what it had been talking about in the previous part of Chapter 2.4 and introduces a new concept, which is direct variation. And this example is illustrated on the page here with these two different scenarios that are compared. They're both very similar. In the one case, we're talking about gold chains. In the other case, we're talking about loose diamonds. Both of these are precious items, valuable items. And in the one case, we're comparing length to price, but it is size to price. And with the diamonds, we happen to be comparing weight to price, but again, it's a size to price comparison. And direct variation, well, let's just look at what actually happens, and then maybe you'll see why we call it direct variation. In the first case, with the gold chains, if I look at the ratio of price to length, 288 over 16, I get 18. 324 over 18, or 324 divided by 18, I get 18. 360 divided by 20, every single time I come up with the result 18. These prices are varying directly with length. By contrast, I'm not even going to do every one of these ratios for diamonds. Just look at the first two. 2250 divided by 0.5 is 4,500. By contrast, the second ratio comes out to 4,900. They're not varying directly. There has to be something else going on that influences price besides simply weight. Direct variation is a situation where the dependent variable, remember y is always the dependent variable, varies directly based on the amount of the independent variable, which is always on the x-axis. And there are lots of situations that this happens in real life. I mean, let's just throw a few examples out there. For example, let's talk basketball teams. If you had to come up with the equipment for a basketball team, well, if I told you there were 15 players on the basketball team, and that would be my x here, then you'd be able to tell me how many shoes I need to buy. I need to buy, if it were 15 players, I need 30 shoes, right? 2 per player. Those vary directly, shoes to players. Similarly, if I tell you that every team has 15 players in the Middlesex League, well, if I told you how many teams there are, then you would be able to multiply the number of teams times 15 and tell me how many players there are. Likewise, let's look at the military. If I told you that there are always 1,000 soldiers in a battalion, well, if I told you how many battalions the U.S. Army had, you'd be able to multiply that times 1,000 and tell me how many soldiers there are. It's this relationship that's purely based, where y is purely based on, is purely a function of x, where you get direct variation. So let's look at the formula that you end up with to describe the relationship between price and length for gold chains. It's simply y equals 18 times x. That 18 is that ratio. It's always going to be that y over x ratio. And notice a couple of things about this. Besides the fact that your m, your slope, your rate of change, is always simply y over x when you have direct variation, the other thing is you never have a y-intercept, or your y-intercept is always 0. It always goes through the origin, in other words. So I'll show you how to apply this with number 22, and in a couple of seconds you're going to be doing it with 23. So with 22, like I said, the formula is going to be y equals some constant times x. That constant is that rate of direct variation. Going back, the previous one, that constant, that coefficient rather, not constant, that coefficient was 18. So, sorry, I should have said that coefficient here, k, is going to be the rate of variation. Well, the rate of variation, like I said, is simply y over x. It's simply, in this case, 6 over 2. 6 over 2 simplifies down, and it becomes 3. The formula, the equation for this situation where you know that x and y vary directly is y equals 3x. Now, based on that, pause the video and tell me what the equation is if you know that -1 and 5 vary directly. Okay, I'm going to assume that you did that. And here are the steps that I worked through, and I ended up with the answer y equals negative 5x. If you didn't get that, come in, let's talk about that, and I'd be happy to help you. But otherwise, that's it. I mentioned on my website your homework tonight, but here it is just repeated, and I'll look forward to seeing you in class next time.